Hey, what's up? It's your girl Tati, and I'm back with another review of Dark Side of the Ring. And this week we are talking about the many faces of Luna Vachon. Growing up, Luna was one of those wrestlers that I did appreciate. Wrestlers like Luna, China, Nicole Bass, Jacqueline, like these type of women that may not be was typical eye candy to like Vince McMahon or whatnot. Like these are the women I really did appreciate watching, and I like Luna's look, and she was a phenomenal wrestler. And unfortunately, being in a WWF, it did not, did her really any good as far as the wrestling aspect of that goes. She wasn't really able to show her in ring ability in the WWF, I believe. And that's something they do talk about during this episode, about how women were basically seen as valets, managers. Women were just pretty much in the background, just there as like supporting characters rather than, being dominant women in the ring. Well, this is definitely like talking about WWF standards at the time. So even though it seemed like going to WWF or even WWE in present day, it seems like, you're getting to the very top of the top as far as going to successful promotions. Sometimes you just don't get what you feel like you should get out of your career in the WWE. And I'm sure that's how Luna definitely felt by the time that she was let go by WWE. So Luna was, as a child, she was adopted to the Vachon family. I really don't need to explain much of who the Vachon family is. I'm sure you guys already know. But Paul the Butcher Vachon had adopted her. Now, how that circumstances happened was kind of crazy. So one night in Atlanta, he was in his hotel room and he hears a gunshot. He goes peek out the hotel room and see what's going on. He doesn't see anything, so he goes back to bed. And in the morning, he's awakened by a knock at the door, and it's a woman and a little girl. And the woman is saying, "Hey, did you hear the gunshots last night? That was actually the hotel owner, and that's my husband. He killed himself." And to our surprise, it's Luna and her mom. And the butcher doesn't really go into details about how they end up getting married or how they end up I guess like liking each other or whatnot, but he ends up marrying her. She becomes his second wife, and he adopts Luna. And Luna, she's brought into this world of wrestling where she gets to be backstage, and there's wrestlers coming over at their home all the time. So at a very young age, she's into this world of wrestling. And he actually ends up marrying her mom when she was 4 years old. And something interesting, a big thing in this episode is about mental illness and how she was mentally unstable and whatnot. And they mentioned something that was very interesting, that when she was 2 years old, that she was being studied by a university for mental illness. And I thought that was kind of crazy, because 2 years old, I mean, something traumatic must have happened. Or like they say, like for some type of mental illnesses, could be hereditary, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. So they do mention that in the episode, that she had bipolar disorder, that she was schizophrenic, and she had like multiple personalities. And it's crazy because at the age of 2, you wonder like what happened, where she was being studied by some type of university. And it goes to show that it all plays out when at 4 years old, her biological father, ends up killing himself at work. And it's like she must have gone through a lot. Like he must have had some type of psychological issues as well, where he would just do something like that. And they don't say if she actually witnessed this, but she's definitely somewhere around to know that that her father killed herself. So she could have possibly been in the area when he did do that. And she's adopted into the Vachon family, and she automatically starts looking up to her aunt, Vivian Vachon. She's a wrestler, and she wants to be just like her. And it's crazy because later on in the episode, they do mention that she said that Vivian did abuse her. They did not go into any details on what type of abuse that was. And another thing, she also told Gangrel and a few other female wrestlers that, because they were so into that wrestling scene, that wrestlers were often, in and out of the home, and that some of the wrestlers did take advantage of her in certain types of ways. And it was just so crazy when her father, who was also interviewed for the show, he just comes on and say, hey, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe any family members had abused her. I don't believe anyone who's like in my circle would have did anything to hurt Luna. And I kind of find that really disappointing, because he just basically dismisses it without really taking what his daughter said to light. And with everything that she's gone through with the drugs and the mental illnesses, like sometimes those type of situations drive you into that. I feel like this episode was despite her already having like mental issues before coming into wrestling itself, I feel like this show really shows how drugs and mental illness is like so common in the world of professional wrestling. And it is something that needs to be done, where these people need help. Like, and during the episode, Medusa says, once it comes to wrestling, there needs to be more to be done once it comes to mental illness and drug addiction or whatnot, because a lot of time it's the wrestling that drives them to the drugs, getting narcotics and being out on the road and being exposed to, all types of things out there. And unfortunately, especially with WWE, while they do have like this wellness program and all that stuff, it's not enough to really keep, these wrestlers away from these types of things. If anything, all they do is just fire you because you had a couple of strikes and then that's it. Like, what type of help do they truly get? The people that has worked for them. One of the things that they do talk about is her going to Moolah's school. They already had an episode about the fabulous Moolah, and it just seems like every time someone has something to say about her, you just get to see her true colors a little bit more. I just feel like people aren't lying like that. It can't be everyone who has something to say about Moolah being more of like this evil type of person, rather than how WWE has always had her shown. And one of the things that they said was that everyone who's been at Moolah's school has some type of like horror story to say. And one of the things that Luna went through was Moolah referred her to see some guy who would take pictures of her. And the guy said, hey, I'll charge you $500 to take some pictures. They don't specify what type of pictures that they were and whatnot. But at this time, she was 16 years old. And obviously, Moolah knew it as well. So she goes meet some guy alone that she doesn't even know. But because Moolah said, she's vouching for him, she goes and meets with him. And within minutes, he's attacking her, trying to assault her. And, her being part of a wrestling family, she has experience with wrestling, and she was able to fight him off and run away. And you would think that type of experience would keep her away from being anywhere having to do with Moolah, but she doesn't, because she knows that all the women go train with Moolah. If they want to be taken seriously, if they want a career, they have to train with Moolah. And unfortunately, they kind of like have their backs against the wall, where it's like, we do what Moolah says or else we won't make it into this industry. And unfortunately, a lot of women went through that, including Luna. She does make it to I believe CWF in Tampa with Kevin Sullivan, and becomes part of his Army of Darkness, which I do feel like she was a great fit for. I do love the whole look that she had, because she did start off as a reporter looking like some lady from the audience, and then when you see her again, she just they're shaving her head, they have all the the paint and the drawings on her face, and she just really painted out a character that she wanted, and she was able to make that come to life. And so I do find it interesting because Gangrel was also part of this interview. I was really glad that he decided to take part of this. Pretty cool dude. So you guys already know they were married, and I do find it interesting. He still had good things to say about her. That's what I like. Like, people split and they still try to find something good to say. Like, he didn't try to make her look bad in this at all. He did speak about her doing drugs or whatnot, and he was really disappointed. And sometimes it seems as though that he turned a blind eye. There's no way that he didn't know. He did state that when he found out about the narcotics, basically he said that Sherry Martel got her into the whole narcotics thing. And he found a whole bunch of pills and questioned her about it. And, she was honest and said that, she's taking pills, to help herself relax and whatnot. And he was really upset. And, several times where he just felt like he had to leave. And he said it himself that they should have never been together as long as they were. He should have left her a long time ago. But he felt like if he left her, no one else would be able to handle her like how he did. And I kind of find that really, really sad that he said that, because it's like, damn, you feel like you're the only person in this world that can not necessarily understand her, but to be able to connect with her in a way where you can help her, and you feel like no one else can be able to do that. And he said, when she passed away, he felt really guilty. He felt like he was part of a lot of the problems that she had, and ultimately he just felt a lot of guilt because of that when she passed away. And he pretty much said a lot of good things. He said when he first met her, he didn't like her at all. He didn't even want to see her again, and they end up meeting each other again. And he didn't really like her. And one time they were in the ring training, and he bit her. I'm sorry, she bit him in the back, and he had this bite mark in his back or whatnot. And he's like, he didn't think he'd ever fall for her. One time he was driving, and she's in the back seat, and she just takes her seatbelt off, and she's hitting him while he's driving and saying, "Why don't you like me? Why don't you like me?" Like, I guess she was trying to say that she liked him and she wanted him to like him too. But that did not, the way she did it was obviously kind of nuts, because he could have crashed the car and everybody could have died. But that was her way of saying that she was feeling him or whatnot. And things do actually get a little bit more crazier, because so they were part of this tag team, right? Called the Black Hearts. So she was basically the ballet for the Black Hearts. It was Tom Nash and Gangrel. And it's crazy because she ends up falling for Tom and marries him. And Tom always had a crush on her and whatnot, and they're together. And what makes this kind of crazy was that Luna's son said, oh, whenever Tom would leave, Gangrel would come to the house. So basically she's like going between both guys or whatnot. And at some point they do cross path. I don't know if he probably saw him at the house or whatever. They didn't go into details, but Gangrel says that they end up fighting or whatnot because, well, Tom find out that he's been around and he's probably sleeping around with with Luna. And so Tom does not give an interview for the show, but he does have a little statement saying that he denies what Gangrel said, like there wasn't no fighting or nothing like that. I guess he doesn't want to make it look like he was fighting for Luna. I could totally see that. Like, you're a dude and someone that you're a tag team partner with is messing around with your girl. Like, are you serious? You're really not going to do anything at all? At least one time they must have been some type of altercation with the two of them about that. But later on Gangrel and Luna ends up getting married on Halloween night right after he has a match. And instead of wedding rings, they got these tattoo of like vampire fang bites on their necks, and I thought that was kind of cute. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody is different. They like other things. And they show the pictures from the wedding, and it just looks like something you probably never seen before. And you would think like this is just like some kind of Halloween thing, but knowing how Gangrel and Luna is, like, they were pretty much just being themselves, and everyone else was in costumes of anything. So now here's where I felt like things kind of took a turn for the worse. uh, Luna feels like she's made it by being in WWF, and she has the first run with them, where she's just, being a valet for Bam Bam, and she's not really getting what she wants from this. Um, so things didn't work out. Now she does do some wrestling in Canada, and Medusa approaches her and says, "Hey, I got a title. I want to drop it to you. So fuck everybody and what they think, and I'm just gonna drop it to you without them even knowing. If I get fired, I get fired." Luna's crying hysterically because obviously she wants a title, but she doesn't want her friend to, get fired over this just for her. So they have this match, and Luna pins Medusa, and Medusa's like, "Yeah, go for it, go for it. I'm just gonna lay here." And instead of, waiting for the 3 count, she just gets off her. Won't even let the ref count to 3 because she doesn't want Medusa to drop the title to her. And ultimately, she never gets the title. And Luna does mention that that's something that she regret, because that could have been a huge opportunity for her as well. And Medusa reassuring that it was okay for them to do this. I think she should have gone for that opportunity since her friend was supporting her with that decision. So she does make it back to the WWF during the Attitude Era, and you guys already know, like, things are just wild at this time. And unfortunately, fortunately for many of you guys, there were, bra and panty matches and a whole bunch of stupid shit that had nothing to do with wrestling when it came to women, just because, during this time, these type of things were, I guess you can say, accepted or whatnot. And Luna wasn't down for it at all. And unfortunately, all it was that this is WWF. It doesn't get any better than this. She did have a run in ECW where she became the first winner of the intergender cage match. And, something like that, that's a big accomplishment. But unfortunately, everyone is like, the sky's the limit. So WWF is like somewhere you really need to be. And ultimately, she wasn't happy with that at all. So at some point, she did have a match with Sable. And this is where I think things get pretty interesting. So during the episode, they do have Luna talking about some experiences or whatnot. And I really want to find this complete interview because she does says a lot of interesting things, and I want to hear what else she has to say. But she does mention that Vince McMahon was like, "Hey, you know what? You're going to have a match with Sable. Sable is going to win." And basically, they just need her to really carry her through this match and make her look good. And that's something that does happen often in wrestling. And she wasn't down for it because Sable just didn't know how to wrestle. And she didn't feel like that's someone that she should even lose to begin with. And she stated that Sable said to her that basically that she didn't really care if she knew how to wrestle. It didn't really matter because Vince McMahon said that she was going to win regardless. And she also said that Vince McMahon said to her that if she bruised Sable or even scratched Sable in any type of way, that she was going to be fired. And obviously, like, hearing those type of things just make you feel unappreciated. It just make you feel like other people are just prioritized. It's not even about the talent. It's about, unfortunately, who looks good. And at the time, sex sells. And Sable was basically almost any guy's fantasy. And basically Vince McMahon's as well. So Luna ends up losing this match. I'm gonna have to go back and look at this match. I kind of don't really remember this, but she goes backstage and she sees Vince McMahon with flowers. She sees everyone clapping, and she's just ecstatic because she thinks everybody's congratulating her for, you know, putting that match in and, you know, having Sable go over. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It was Sable that was standing behind her, and they were congratulating her. So she just felt like a complete idiot, and she felt really hurt about what happened, and she just couldn't, you know, accept that she wasn't being appreciated. And she just kept crying, and many of the wrestlers were trying to console her and they couldn't. And Sunny was trying to console her, and she threw her onto one of like the production boxes and was like roughing her up. And she said specifically, like, I didn't want to hit her in the face because I knew that if I would have did something to mess up precious Sunny face, that I'd be fired. So she let it go, but she was angry. Other than that, she had a couple of episodes backstage, and I do think that they were like her mental state was really showing backstage, especially with her frustration with the company. And ultimately, they did send her to rehab and they let her go. And it was at this point where she became heavily into drugs, and things just got so much worse as far as drugs went. Gangrel said he came home one day, saw her in bed. She had a tray with cocaine, and she's making lines that says "F you, Vince." And he was like, you know what? I've had enough. She was just getting worse from there since she got fired. The one thing that she loved to do is something that she felt like she couldn't do anymore. She wasn't being appreciated for what she was doing. And then with the drugs and everything and her mental state, it wasn't going to be best for her to work anywhere else. So from there, things went south as far as her life went. And you know, I just found this to be really, really informative, like how they, like her son, who doesn't really seem to care about professional wrestling, like he had a lot of opinions about her, but he would say he only saw her like once or twice a year. He was raised by his grandma, and that she wasn't really around, but yet he had so much to say about her. I feel like everyone else really got a chance to spend time with her and kind of knew her a lot more than the son did. And then he says, when they talk about her death, because she passed in 2010, I guess an overdose, and he's like, he didn't really care how she died, because at first he heard her dying in several different ways, and he's like, he didn't really care how she died. You know, she's gone, and it is what it is. Like, he just says it like it was nothing. And I was like, bro, like, why are you even here? Like, he doesn't have to say anything nice about her, right? But like the way that he responded to her death was just kind of crazy. I just didn't really like what he said. You know, he said things about how wrestling he thought was real, but it wasn't real. I hate when people say shit like that. There's a much better explanation about that, but you know, as far as her son goes, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way on this, because I feel like he kept saying that he really didn't get to know her, really didn't get to spend time with her. But when other people had opinions, he was like, he didn't agree with what other people were saying, because he just felt like, oh, my mom wouldn't want that. My mom is not like that. But you didn't really know her like that. He said, you know, after she got fired, he never saw her. They never talked. She never even met her granddaughter. And he just seemed to have a lot of resentment towards her. So when he talked about her death and how he didn't really care how she passed, I was like, wow, like it just came off pretty wrong. Mick Foley was there, and he also gave like a eulogy to her, and that's kind of crazy because she didn't have a funeral, and some of her friends felt like she would have wanted a funeral, like a really big funeral. Then her son kept saying, no, that's not true. I know my mom, she wouldn't want a private little funeral. She wouldn't want nobody to really be there or whatnot. And it's sad that they couldn't celebrate her life, because she did have a lot to offer this world, and there was a lot to celebrate. Unfortunately, her career didn't go the way that she wanted it to go, but there was a lot to celebrate. And it's just really, really sad. Like, I really do feel like any wrestling promotion should have some type of program where they're helping their current wrestlers or even past wrestlers with any mental situations that they're going through, any drug issues that they're going through. This is really important because we're seeing time and time again, almost every episode, that drugs and alcohol or mental illness is something that's heavily the cause to their death or the spiral into their life. And AEW just starting up 2 years running, and it's like they need to do the same thing too, especially now that they're one of those companies that people are eyeing to be part of. They need to be able to have a plan to how to help their up and coming wrestlers and former wrestlers as well, so that we don't get to see so many episodes of so and so dies from drug addiction and mental illness. Like, something needs to be done to help these people. And rest in peace, Luna, man. She deserves so much more in life, and it would have been great for her to have an amazing career, and unfortunately it did not go that way. Guys, thanks so much for watching my review, and I'll be back next week. Bye.